Welcome to
Sci-Fi Book Trek.
So, today we run the follow-up book from David Mack, the Destiny series.
From Star Trek Destinies, and it's Mere Mortals, Book 2.
So, what was your initial impression?
It definitely felt like a middle book.
Yeah.
I was surprised with the lack of stuff that happened, especially with the fact of the build-up in the first book. The second book, it focused on areas where, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable, the areas it focused on. And I did like what it did.
Mm.
The last two chapters, however, it felt like, oh boy, we forgot plot lines. Shove them in.
I got the impression that the last two chapters were, actually, we've done character building for too long. We need to have some action.
Yes. And I don't know, the last two chapters, I honestly didn't like.
I do. I actually think that they're quite... But then that's me.
I preferred everything that came before. Even though it did feel in places that it was just spinning its wheels.
Mm.
The last two chapters, I don't know what it was. It just slightly annoyed me. I don't know whether it was. I think one of them's bit longer than the other because there's a few chapters that are spiky. Like I've got 10 pages more than the normal.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it was second to last chapter. Oh no, I got annoyed by it, but overall, I thought the book was okay.
Okay.
It was just, maybe it's me with action. I'm not a big fan of action in books, or like action done that way.
The irony being, I was whinging about the movie Picard last video. This is very much that particular scene, or rather that particular chapter, is very much a movie Picard type of scene.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I found it.
I think the problem was also it felt like it came out of nowhere. It was really needed.
Yeah. Well,
it's like the Picard section of it and the. Well, I'm going to spoilers, but like.
Not yet.
That part, I just felt like it wasn't really needed. Especially with what happened next, it was like.
I think it's.
I'll go into spoilers, but like the last two chapters just really. I was something's off.
I think the last two chapters are an attempt to build up It's an attempt to build up the story for the last book.
I agree. However, it's got 400 odd pages just to build up in the last two chapters. Felt not a build up, but just like a vertical rise. It felt like a sheer cliff wall.
Yeah.
It did not feel like an incline at all.
It didn't feel like a steady build-up.
No, it felt like a brick wall you just hit.
That is fair. Like I say, again, I've seen, I've read the last book, so for them to be building up that way, yeah, they could have spread it out. Matt could have spread it out a little bit more, but it wouldn't make sense to have a couple of big action pieces in the middle of what is essentially a heavy character development book.
I agree. However, the action set piece involving Picard felt like it could have happened in the middle of the book or at any other point.
Maybe.
It didn't feel like it had to be where it was.
Yeah, I can see that. There's part of it is because obviously with what they return to, they've come out of one bad situation into a worse.
Yes. We'll have to go over it in spoilers, but there are parts where I see what they're doing, but it doesn't seem like they're paying off on what they're doing.
Mm.
It seems like they're trying to have their cake and eat it. But anyway, overall, the book, I do like it. It mostly focuses on Captain Hernandez.
Mm.
That's,
Captain Hernandez and the crew left behind.
I wouldn't even say the crew. I would say Captain Hernandez because she's in. Because there are some strings pulled together from, like, last book, and Captain Hernandez sort of crosses over. If you know where the last book ended,
We can give spoilers on the last book.
well, yeah, but okay. You know, Captain Hernandez is still alive when the Titan gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to see Captain Hernandez interacting with the Titan's crew, but also how she got to that point. So it mostly focuses on that, and that I did like. It did feel occasionally like we were going on a meander, which wasn't really needed, but it was enjoyable while it lasted.
Okay. I mean, I like the character elements of Hernandez.
Oh no, so did I. I think she's one of my favourite characters in it.
It's Hernandez has obviously got friends among the crew, and they're left behind. Like there's the two different groups. You've got the group that ended up being thrown across the universe.
Well, the group, that was another thing. The 4 Makos and the 2 officers do not get mentioned in this book.
I must have reread it wrong.
Unless I missed out something, they do not get mentioned.
I could have sworn that.
A few inches later.
Oh, maybe it's the next one.
Because that was one of my first notes. Where are the Makos and the other 2 officers? Because that, it never answers, it never says anything. So I went back to the first book, reread that little part, and they appear to be on another city.
Yes. They are on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Because that's in the third book.
Yeah.
I can guess, because there is this one point where I think it's Aventine goes through like one of the little warp corridors. No, actually, it's not the Aventine. It's the Enterprise. And they find this primordial star cluster.
That's actually a setup for a completely different book.
Right, because I was thinking it would be linking in with this book, which would make more sense.
No, I mean, that would make more sense.
And also, the what is it? Celor, the aliens in it.
Kalia.
Well, yeah, you say Kalia. I say pronunciation is going to be a problem. Cellular, but they seem, I wouldn't say less intelligent, but less logical and rational.
Rolled high on intelligence and cracked out on wisdom.
Yeah, it's just,
To use a really nerdy.
they do some things which are smart, and they've got tons of technology, but their overall goal seems a bit stupid at some points. Especially when like revelations come about what happened to their like destruction and stuff, and you just think, well, why don't you just like?
Maybe we should go into spoilers early because this is difficult.
No, we'll try to stick with the review. But yeah, so the Celia, some of their reasoning and logic, I wouldn't say started to break down. You start to have questions about it, and you wonder why Hernandez doesn't really have questions about it as well. But that's aside. As it is, they carry on with what their main goal is from the first book.
Which is trying to contact an alien race more advanced than them.
But it does feel like that slipped far into the background of the story. So it mostly focuses on Hernandez and handler, Inex, who it almost feels like he treats her as a pet than anything else. And she doesn't quite see that.
There is elements of that because I think the whole race have considered themselves so above humanity that it's almost like a human seeing a dog and going, "Oh, good doggy," and then the dog, from the events of the first book, the dog has then shit all over the carpet, and it's like the Kalia are like, "I didn't know dogs could do that. That's ruined my entire day."
Yes,
but there's still an element of it's frustration rather than anger at what happened. It's like, well, I'm gonna have to clean this up, and then spend the next several millennia cleaning up the mess.
But then again, you find out it might not be the dog's fault, all of it.
Yes, which is weird.
But the main problem is, like all the other cellulars just fade into the background, and they tend to ignore her. It's only what is it, Inex. Pronunciation is going to be a problem that shows any sort of compassion, and that's
any sort of interest.
Of text, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes through the lives of the 4 crew of the Columbia, the 4 officers who escaped on the ship. Well, the city.
Isn't it 3?
No, it's 4.
It is 4.
It is 4. It's the communications officer, the doctor, second in command, and
yeah, okay.
Hernandez.
I remember. Now that you've read that off for me, I remember what happens.
I mean, it's not like some of them have standout roles, should we say.
They're not. They are very much there to support Hernandez.
It also shows the facets of humanity and what areas it goes to in times of like crisis or like imprisonment.
Mm.
So like you've got all the sort of aspects touched upon.
It's the different stages of grief, I think you're looking for.
Yes.
Mm.
But yeah, overall, and like Picard is on the cover, although Picard seems also more, I wouldn't say incidental. I would still say, a D plot or C plot. Like, it still feels like the Picard section is building in places. But it's like this is the second book and you're still building. And especially the way it ends, it's like, it feels like you've built to nothing.
Just based on other material that I've read done on in the extended universe stuff, Picard and the Borg go hand in hand. They always have. Again, it's one of the reasons that I get frustrated for Star Trek Picard, because it seems to be one of the only things that anyone ever remembers about Picard is, oh, Picard, Borg. So we're going to throw Picard against the Borg, even when it makes no sense. So Star Trek Picard, different thing. But my point is that I think what Mack has tried to do is he's tried to distance. It is a Borg story, but he's tried to make it what's the word? He's tried to make it sort of a group effort rather than Picard has to be the one to beat the Borg, because Picard's nemesis is the Borg and everything about the Borg has to feature Picard. And so I think what Mack's done is then pulled the character back a little bit to allow the other characters to take part in the
Yes,
the
that
story.
bit I do like how he's done that. However, I would say that the 2 books I've read so far seem to be the Columbia story and Hernandez story.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else is sort of
But at the same time,
ties into that.
she's on both covers.
Yes.
So, I mean, I would say that it does feature the trilogy does feature more as a Hernandez story.
Yes.
As
That's what I
the
would
main
say was
protagonist.
That's probably the bits I'm liking the most. Because I like to see where that's going, and when that's concluded,
It does give you
I might be a bit disappointed in the rest of it.
It does give you an opportunity to explore a character that hasn't already been poured out on screen.
Yes. But also, it feels like, though she can be a bit one note on like a certain subject, it does feel like she's developing and trying to, she's changing. And like,
Well, part of the...
she feels more like a rounded character.
Mm.
Picard, just in these books, he seems a one-note character.
But we've seen Picard.
Yes, I agree.
Mm.
I agree. We've seen Picard do those things, but Picard does seem like he's the most one-note character out of the entire books.
And he's a miserable bastard.
Well, yeah, but it just feels very singular. He just, we go back to him. He thinks about the same thing. He gets depressed. He goes, and it's just a cycle. And it's just the same thing every time we come back to.
Mm.
And also, David Mack still loves the word brooding. Oh boy, even Hernandez broods at one point. And I was like, no, why has she got crippled with this brooding plague? Stop! I don't know what... Like, it appears maybe about 4 or 5 times. So that's like 1 every 100 pages. But every time it's there, I notice it. I don't know why, but I notice it. And it annoys me. It's like, can we pick another word? Please, can we pick another word? But anyway, I was tempted to go through and count, but I thought, no, that would be petty.
What do you think of the Titan aspects of the...
The Titan aspects went essentially how I thought.
Mm.
I mean, it does seem like a more working starship, and they're like pulling together, solving problems and stuff like that, and trying to do stuff. As far as landing crew, I had an issue with the Doctor.
I don't know whether this is going to be this one particular...
It's not the end part, which is like, I guess. No, it's midway through. The last chapter involving them. I don't have a problem with the Doctor per se. I have a problem with every other character involved in that scene.
Yes.
And the ones who are not for reasons.
I can appreciate...
Tuvok, I'm looking at you. You piece of... green bloody...
Calm.
It's just... He did something to annoy me, and it was like, okay, connect the dots.
Channeling Dr. McCoy.
It was like... Anyway, we'll talk about that in spoilers. Which hopefully will be uploaded next week after this one's uploaded.
So we've done the Enterprise.
Yes.
We've covered the Aventine. We've covered...
Well, the Aventine mostly just spends its time with the Enterprise.
Yes, because they've now joined.
Yes, they join at the start of the book. as you could predict from the end of the last book, because they're in the same region of space. So they join up and make a team. And then they have double plot armor.
Mm-hmm. You predicted that bloody resolution, didn't you?
No, not exactly, but pretty much. I mean, it was obvious.
Did you actually write down your predictions so that we could go over them?
For this, yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote them all down. There's not many because, I mean, some of them, the predictions I made for the last book, still stand because we haven't got any resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did make a few predictions, or at least more specific, tighter predictions.
Yeah. We've done the Enterprise, we've done the Aventine, we've done the Titan, we've done Hernandez.
Yeah.
And the other crew members of the Columbia that disappeared aren't factored in yet.
Yeah. The 4 Makos and the 2 other officers.
The engineer
and I forget the other person.
Yeah, she is pretty forgettable. She's like an ensign.
Well, yeah. Those 2 you hear nothing about in the entire book. So you're always wondering what's going on. And like I said, I reread the first book and found out they are actually in a different city.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is mostly Hernandez's story, and mostly everything's from her viewpoint. When not, Picard, Riker, or Ezri. Pronunciation is going to be a problem. Ezri. Picard, Riker, or Ezri.
So, looking forward to the last book?
Yes. Just because I might get some answers.
You want to see how the train reckons?
Well, no, I don't think it'll be a train. I think, because some parts of the story I am liking. The Hernandez parts, I am liking. Where it's going to go, I am a little worried. The Borg stuff, I don't want to say I'm fully checked out, but I'm trying to distance myself to stop myself getting angry. Should we say that? It just... There's some parts which just really annoy me. It's like, why did you do that instead of this? And like, I'm talking to David Mack rather than anyone else, character-wise. But anyway, overall, yes, I do think it's a second novel in a trilogy. So it does feel like a bridge where you just walk along and nice scenery, not much happens.
I mean, it's your Two Towers, it's your middle. It's always going to suffer from, I think most things will suffer from middle.
Yes.
The middle syndrome.
But I think the problem was there was so much setup in the last book. I was thinking at least some things could be resolved in this book, leaving other things to be resolved in the last book. And it feels like everything's pushing towards the last book.
It's not.
I mean, it's about the
not
same
any
thickness.
thicker.
No, it's like 450 pages or something. I think this one's like 420. think this one's
Yeah.
the shortest one, but only by a couple of pages. But yeah, I'm worried that the next one is just going to be a lot of tying up ends and stuff. And I did like the story. Also, Garrick makes an appearance.
Yes.
I mean, blink and you miss it, but he does make 2 appearances. And it did make me smile every time he had a word. So, but yeah, it was nice. Like, we'll leave it as that. It was nice.
So, spoilers.
Yep. So, we're going to end this review here, and next week we'll post up a spoiler review, so you've got time to read the book if you wish, and then come back and see what our spoilers say. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This is going to require some editing.
Such as?
It seems very slapdash this time. Backup camera rolling.
Rolling. Nice. You started
Good
it.
start.
Right. We ready?
Clap.
Bloody hell. Right.